Today, we're going to be reviewing Sleight, The Circle, and Colossal, so stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. I'm here with Matt. I have a bump that itches on my arm, and hey, and who am I today, Matt? I've got a really nasty bump that's itching, so I just felt like I should let you know.
That was a bug bite?
I think it might be, which is crazy because I don't see any bugs in the studio.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I'm here with Joel. Can't figure out how to book a hotel room online. Cunningham.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts me to the core.
Okay.
It's tough. He's talking about, folks, ladies and gentlemen listening, that I did a very stupid thing and booked myself a hotel room at Comic-Con this year, but forgot to include 1 day of reservation for con.
Don't feel bad. I don't have any rooms booked for Comic-Con.
That is true. So I know what my nickname is for you the next time.
You're like, you're not going to Comic-Con.
Yeah, Matt not going to con. Hey, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Matt. I wish you could go. So, yeah, so welcome to The Real Review, everybody. This is our podcast where we review films that have recently been released that Matt and I have had a chance to watch and give you our thoughts and perspectives. And we approach things with a little bit of a, I don't know how you'd say it, critic versus fan perspective. Matt tends to be a bit more of a fan-like perspective. So
yes, fangirl.
Fangirl's a perfect way of putting
it.
Yes, so a bit more of a fangirl versus a bit more of a, I don't know, negative Nancy. How about that? I'll be a negative
the
Nancy.
old grumpy man.
Yeah, the old grumpy man perspective. And we combine those two thoughts and give you what we believe is an untarnished, unvarnished, clear, pure perspective and review on the films that we've watched.
Right.
Does that sound awesome?
Awesome.
Cool. So, Matt, why don't you give them a couple ways that they can get connected to us if they're wanting to on social media, email, all that fun stuff?
Totally. You can connect with us on the social webs, cinematic universe, whether that be Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have our own website, but on the social medias, it's going to be at Real Review Media. And you can find us there. We got stuff we post there. And then also on our website, we also post stuff frequently there. So check it out. But if you go to our website at realreviewmedia.com, you can actually connect to all of our social media platforms from that spot. Yeah. And then also you can email us, realreviewmedia@gmail.com. Ask us some questions if you have something that you want us to talk about specifically, or if you have a concern.
They might at this point have a concern about my bump on my arm.
Yes, exactly. You might want to get that checked out.
If anybody knows a good place I can go for getting bumps checked out,
exactly.
Great. Yeah, the bump doctor.
That would be perfect. So let us know. You can email us there, but that's how you can get a hold of us.
Cool. And we've got a really big film coming out this weekend.
Oh yeah,
which we're going to be reviewing. I'm really excited for.
Yeah,
talking about Gardening Galaxies Volume 2. Yeah, and I'm really excited about that. So everybody definitely check us out next week.
Gardening the Galaxy.
Gardening the Galaxy.
Part 2.
It's
part C.
Volume 2, The Green Thumb.
Yes.
Very cool.
Perfect.
So, with all that being said then, Matt, why don't we go ahead and get into some film talk?
Let's do this thing.
Awesome. So, as I mentioned in the bumper, we're going to be talking about 3 films today. Matt, you had an opportunity to see 2 of the films.
Yes.
I had a chance to see 1 of the films.
I feel like I came out more fortunate.
You did.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Again. Somehow. You always win this gamble. I don't know how it works, but you did do the lion's share of the work today, so we're going to let you lead things off and take us into it with our first film, Sleight.
Perfect.
So
yes. So I saw Sleight, and this is a Blumhouse Tilt film, but specifically to give you kind of the breakdown on it, it's about a young street magician played by Jacob Lattimore who is left to care for his little sister after their parents had passed away, and turns into illegal activities to keep the roof over their heads. And then when he kind of gets into deep with the person that he's doing these quote-unquote illegal activities with,
maybe they're not that illegal.
He's starting to really second guess some of the stuff that he has going on. But he also has some quote-unquote powers.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll get into that here.
Yeah.
But the movie stars Jacob Lattimore, Seychelle Gabriel, Dule Hill, and Storm Reed. But first of all, Dule Hill.
Mm-hmm.
He's in this. I call him Magic Head.
Yeah.
From Psych.
Right.
I don't know if it's gonna be really hard. First of all, I thought it was gonna be really hard to disconnect that character,
to separate him out, yeah,
from this. Because he's like the bad guy. He's the main antagonist in this film,
right?
And at first it was very difficult, but he does a good enough job to eventually pull you over. Like, okay, he is kind of a bad dude. Like, I don't just see Gus from Psych, you know?
Right. Were there similar mannerisms? I mean,
yeah, a little bit.
Okay. I mean, it's really hard for characters oftentimes, especially one that's been on a show for that long,
like 7 seasons or
something
something crazy.
To break away from some of the, because you get to know them so strongly in that character, so it's hard to not have similarities.
But he's good. He's good. He does a lot of stage acting stuff too lately. But side note, they're gonna do a Psych movie, is what I'm hearing.
Hey.
Anyway, okay, so let's go back to the movie here. Sleight. We talked about this in our Coming Soon segment last week, and they're like, it's gonna be Chronicle meets Iron Man, and the trailer poses it as is like this kid who has powers, uses these powers. He's a street magician to, like, you know, and he hustles people essentially to make money to support his sister.
Right, and hook up with girls.
Right.
Well, one girl in particular.
Right,
from the trailer, yeah.
And you think that, you know, he's using his powers, he's this new, like, cool ability that he has to do these unbelievable tricks.
Yeah.
And then he gets in bad with this group, and then he essentially gets out by
Dulay's group,
with Dulay's group, and he, like, uses his powers to get out and, like, you know, for retribution and revenge purposes against them.
The big film that you were saying, and I was saying, comparing to as well, was Chronicle.
Right. Yeah, so they like Chronicle, and they, like I say, Chronicle meets Iron Man, and we didn't see the Iron Man comparison necessarily. I didn't see it.
They were marketing it definitely more of like a Chronicle type thing.
Let me say this: I think this movie suffers in its marketing because it's not that.
Okay.
I actually got more of the Iron Man vibe from the movie, not necessarily the trailer.
And you're talking more, I'm guessing, like story progression versus tone?
Not even story progression. I would say the Iron Man as far as, like, how he gets his powers.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, and I can't talk about it without spoiling it too much.
Okay.
They're not like Chronicle powers. Let's just say they're more like Iron Man powers, and not necessarily how to do, but the physical, like, science part of it.
Okay.
And that was a little bit of a letdown for me. Because what happened was it's taking this premise that you're thinking that, oh, he's using his abilities to make money on the side by doing cool card tricks, when it has nothing to do. These card tricks that he does have nothing to do with his ability.
Okay.
And it's frustrating because,
like, the manipulative of objects ability has nothing to do with the card tricks.
Right.
Okay.
He does this thing where he, like, levitates, like, metallic objects and stuff like that, and that's part of his tricks, but they're not card tricks. But he does that. That is tied to his ability, but the card stuff's not. But they do a job where they continually beat over your head that he is a major magic fan. So he's got this poster of Houdini, like, on his wall and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They do a pretty good job at building his backstory, how, you know, his parents passed away, and he's got to basically do whatever he can, hustle the streets to make ends meet to support his sister. And
which I get. So I'm not trying to interrupt your flow too much here, but I mean, in a sense, a good magician is kind of like a Tony Stark in the sense that they're really good showmen, but they also have to be very intelligent kind of engineers. They have to know how to put something together and trick and manipulate people into thinking that something that's not real is real. And a lot of times it's through, like, mechanisms and through actual devices. Right. You know, so
it is. It's like that. It reminds me a little bit of, no, don't compare the movie to it, but it reminds me of his thought process of, like, The Prestige, using technology in a way to
like a modern day type-ish.
Yeah, to use technology in a way that makes unbelievable things happen. I will say the other way that the marketing kind of didn't do this movie, like, any service is it's first and foremost a drama. Like, it's almost like all the power, quote unquote power stuff is auxiliary, and that's okay, but the previews made it seem like he's going to be doing all this stuff, you know?
Yeah,
and it's not like that. Like, he does the most stuff in, like, one scene in the last 20 minutes of the movie. And I was a little bit let down. I was like, nothing happens. They leave it on a weird cliffhanger where you're like, like they're gonna do a sequel and he could
Yeah.
do cool stuff, but they don't show anything.
Huh.
But for the most part, all of the acting was really, really good. Seychelles, I don't know if that's how you Seychelles. I don't know if that's how you say her name or not. She was in, I believe she was in Falling Skies.
Okay.
I remember seeing her in that show.
Yeah.
And I didn't think she was that good in that show.
Okay.
I thought she was really good in this.
Okay.
I believed her. Her dramatic effect was good. Her character development was a little bit weird. She like suddenly is like in this relationship with the main character, and they don't really build to it. It just happens. It felt a little awkward.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the movie was very straightforward. This is basically what it is. A drama about a kid who's trying to take care of his sister, gets in with illegal activity, gets in it deep, can't get out, and tries to get out of that activity. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
I liked it. Was disappointed in the marketing. Thought they could have gone a little bit further on like the power side of it. I would have liked to see a little bit more.
Right.
It was a little bit disjointed in how it was edited and how you learned about some of the characters. And I feel like the editing process, they were asking questions like, what if we put this scene way up at the beginning? What would that mean for the rest of it? And
Yeah.
I felt like they just shouldn't have done that. But as a whole, I did really like it.
Yeah.
So, well, I shouldn't say really like it. I liked it.
You liked
it was okay.
So separating out the marketing side of things, what kind of film would you say this is? It came across, so I will say, per the marketing, as like metaphysical action, sort of gangster, type action movie.
It's a drama
So
with
it's-
action elements.
Drama with action.
Not even that much
So
action.
it's Blumhouse is the production company.
Blumhouse Tilt was
Tilt.
yeah.
So it's not a horror, which a
No.
lot of their stuff is known for, but they've kind of Tilt, I believe, is like their subsidiary group, but they
Yes.
use
Yep.
it to reach out to different types of films.
Mhm.
So they're trying to branch into different types of things.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, it was okay. I felt disappointed, and that's a hard thing for me to shake when I go into a film and I feel disappointed about it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, more,
Yeah.
you know.
What are some elements that you felt like were really good, like that they did not? You said the acting.
The acting was good.
Okay.
The acting was really good.
I mean, special effects.
Special effects were
story
very good.
development, tone.
Special effects were very good, and I think maybe it was because there weren't many special effects in it. There's a couple things towards the end, that last like action sequence that I thought was pretty cool. Didn't ever look hokey.
Okay.
Other than that, I thought the cinematography is actually pretty good. They did a good job at making you feel like you were in this kid's shoes a little bit, and you were in this like rundown part of LA.
Nice.
I
Okay.
did feel like that was like, ooh, kind of you felt like you were there.
It's cool.
So it was directed well, and I would say is also, but as a whole, I just felt disappointed, and I thought it was interesting. I don't know if I'd watch it again.
Okay.
Maybe catch it on cable is like a recommendation. I did like it better than Lost City of Z, which I saw last weekend.
Yeah, last one you saw.
Which I gave that a 65. If I were to rate this thing, I'd probably give it a 68.
68.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think that if somebody's going into this now that you've kind of maybe opened their eyes a little bit towards what type of film it might be, do you think they would have an overall somewhat better experience?
I think they would.
Okay.
I got my hopes up thinking it was more of like a hero or origin story.
Right. I'm thinking that it might appeal, the way that you're explaining it now might appeal to some people.
Yeah.
Because, you and I like sort of that metaphysical type, science fiction-y action type stuff.
For sure.
But somebody else might go like, oh yeah, well, drama with some action sounds kind of good. You know, that might be their thing. So I don't know. Good explanation for it. Any final thoughts?
No, that's it. I hope to see some more from Jacob Latimore. I thought it was pretty good.
Okay.
And I think he could do a lot more in his career too.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording here. Like, one of the things that I'm loving is that Blumhouse is taking shots and trying some different things, some different types of films. They're not going, I mean, it might be a financial reason, but they're not going for like these giant studio, like spit out as many remakes or, like sequels as we can.
Right.
There's no sequelitis. Well, I would say with their actual productions, yes, there are though, because they've got the Paranormal Activity.
Well, within their own
wheelhouse, brands,
yeah.
The Purge. I think they're on to like Purge 7 at this point.
Purge 19.
We're purging the Purge, repurging. So, but they're a good one in a way, and then also really A24 is the other one that I'm kind of liking, that they're at least trying some things. They're taking on new types of stories. Now A24 has done some movies that are just really horrible and dark and difficult for some people to watch. So I'm not saying that's for everybody, but good stuff.
That's cool.
Cool. Awesome, Matt. Well, thank you for that review. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move into the next film, which is a film that I had a chance to see.
You're so lucky.
So lucky. Oh, my goodness. Great film. So the film we're talking about here is The Circle.
Woo!
Yeah. So this is directed by James Ponsoldt. I'm not sure if I'm even getting that right, but I don't think it matters. Stars Emma Watson, Tom Hanks, John Boyega. You've got Glenn Headley.
Sounds right.
Bill Paxton in his final role, which was pretty sad to see actually in this film. Karen Gillan, I believe that's pronounced right, who's actually coming up. She's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 as well. And Tom Hanks. And then also Patton Oswalt. I already said Tom Hanks, but Patton Oswalt.
And Beck as Beck.
Beck as Beck, yeah. Who has about a 5-minute role. And that's kind of how a lot of this film felt. It felt like there was a lot of people in it that or just like 5-minute roles.
Like I heard Boyega was kind of like not in there that much.
Yeah, it was really strange. There was like moments where I'd like to start talking about the good, but I'm going to start with this, that like Boyega was in it for like 3 scenes, and it was like he literally one scene he's just kind of like in the audience and responding. Actually, I think twice he's like just sitting in the audience and just responding to things. And then he has a couple direct interactions with like Emma, which was weird because her character May, like, it feels like there's almost this romantic tension between the two of them, but that never goes anywhere. So you're left feeling like, was that just how their characters were, or was like there's supposed to be something romantic there and it got cut out, or what kind of happened? Because I was actually interested in that because there was a bit of a love triangle situation. So one of the other store's characters in this was Eller Coltrane, who was kind of known for Boyhood, which is probably his biggest role. He plays a character named Mercer, who's kind of the childhood friend of May and the family, her families. And so he's kind of like a romantic interest at the beginning of the movie.
Okay. But
then he never really develops that. They never really develop, which felt somewhat natural in a way. But it almost presented this kind of like cool like love triangle, which I'm not always great with, but I thought it would have been good for this film, of like her, Boyega, and Coltrane. They all could have been like, this sort of thing. But that never went anywhere. They decided to go down this other path. So the story synopsis for this is: a woman lands a dream job at a powerful tech company called The Circle, only to uncover a nefarious agenda that will affect the lives of her friends, family, and that of humanity. I'm making that makes it sound a lot more epic,
right,
than it actually is. And if I had to, in a way, kind of categorize this film with like comparing other films, in a weird way, not anywhere near as good. It's getting horrible ratings right now. It's at like a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes, 25% viewer rating, and I would say it's almost like a tech Invasion of the Body Snatchers type film.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, and I know that sounds really strange, and it's not quite it's nowhere near as good. It's nowhere near as deep. There's definitely heights to which the story of the invasion of the Body Snatchers went to that this one doesn't even get close to reaching. But that's probably the most like similar type plot progression that I could compare it to.
Right.
In a way. So that's a reach, but just please, listeners, just give me a little grace there. So, I think one of the main issues with this film, there's a ton. So I will say this: we talked about Emma in this role and a couple of the other actors because they just didn't, to me personally, look like the kind of people that would work at a tech company.
Right.
I will say she did fit this character to me. I don't think she was directed very well. I think most of the characters came across as being very one-dimensional.
Oh, okay.
Very kind of flat. I think her character, if anything, had a little bit more layer to it. Mm-hmm. I think everybody in the film pretty much had one or two ways of being. They were either this way or they were that way.
Right.
This way or that way. And so like Boyega was either like super kind of silly and friendly or like super concerned and upset. She was either like everything's fine and normal, or she's like sad and depressed and worried about things. And her friend Glenn was like, she's either like the super energetic, like super hyper girl, or she's like morbidly depressed and angry and like repressed. And so it was like one or the other, bop, bop, bop. And it just felt very bland because of that. There was like no arc in a way for a lot of this stuff. It felt like all their plot lines were very forced and like I knew exactly where it was going to go.
Right.
The big question as well that I said to you was, so yeah, Emma did better than I thought she was going to do. She wasn't great, but nobody in this film really was great. It was just everybody was just okay. One of the big questions I posed to you is that I felt like, we didn't pose, but I said that to me, this film is going to go one in two directions. She's either going to see the horrible things the Circle's doing and go with it, or she's going to see the horrible things that the Circle's doing and go against it.
Right.
And I don't know if I should spoil too much. I don't know if people even care with this kind of a film, so I'm going to talk about some aspects that might be a little bit spoilery.
So there's your warning.
Yeah, there's your warning. She kind of does both. And that's what's so stupid about this film.
Weird.
She didn't pick a path. And I felt like that was almost on purpose accident because it gets to the point where the script where she's kind of like just dealing with the weird eccentricities of this group called The Circle. And it's like this company that's like this mashup of like Google and Apple and like all these other, like they make tech gadgets, but they also make software and they make Facebook style like social networking type stuff, but it's like all of it in one, which makes no sense at all because they even talk about other types of groups so I mean it would only exist if there wasn't groups like Google or Facebook. Right. And so in a sense I'm like, do those other groups exist in this world? Is it not our world? Is it supposed to be ours in the future? They never really set that time frame up, so it just kind of felt like it was taking place in some like separate universe, maybe, which was very hard to pigeonhole or figure out what's going on. Yeah, and so she kind of picks this path to go back to the story where she has to choose. She starts kind of agreeing with it. And it doesn't happen naturally because you see her hesitating about some of the weird overreaching that a lot of these like mechanisms and things are doing in her life and other people's lives. And you can tell that she sees that they're wrong, but then she'll like immediately just be like, well, but it's okay. It's wrong, but it's okay. But there's never like a reason for why it's okay. It just is okay. And it turns into this almost like cult-like thing. Yeah. But it's not on the basis of there being really a solid, like with a cult, you at least understand that they're getting something if they get to the end of that. At the end of a cult usually is this idea that they're going to like achieve enlightenment or something like that. Right. At the end of the Circle, it's just more of the Circle. Yeah. It doesn't really make sense because they don't really have an end game that they're pushing towards. And they're, Tom Hanks plays a decently, kind of dynamic leader type guy, the organization. Patton Oswalt to me was completely unbelievable in the role.
Really?
I did not look at him as like this COO type dynamic leader. Like if you look at the roles that he's in, I mean, he's a free-spirited kind of silly, nerdy.
But he's very serious in this?
He was like trying to be serious, but it felt like it was like a joke that he knew. So I didn't really get his character super well in this film. Sorry, I was burping.
No, it's all good. Hey, burp away.
Yeah, there we go. All right. I'll just cut it out. Okay. Cut it out later for us. And so they go down this path where it's like almost this cultish thing where she has to kind of decide, is she going to agree with the Circle and the direction of whatever it's going towards or not? And she, for the most part, hates it, but then loves it, and then hates it, and then loves it, and finds it awkward, but then agrees with it. And then this really, really horrible thing happens about close to like the end of the film. There's this situation, I won't spoil that, but it's so obvious where it's going. It's like you're seeing flags everywhere, like this is what's going to happen, and it happens, and it's like 5 to 10 minutes later, she's completely over it, but she's not like over it,
right?
And so you're thinking that this is the setup for her to like, oh, she's going to get them, she's going to like burn them and turn the circle and expose them and all this other stuff, and like she kind of does, but doesn't at the same time. And that's what didn't make sense. They didn't really set up that twist there. And that's where she kind of like, in a way, she like almost takes over the Circle.
Weird.
Which is weird because she hates it, but loves it. But then she's like, I hate these aspects of it. And it's broken and I can fix it. If I do these things, that's going to fix it. But there's no precedent or reason for believing that any of the things that she's trying to do to fix it would actually fix it, when she's part of the cause of it being faulty to begin with. And
weird.
So it's just really odd. It's really strange. I didn't really get the progress that it was going towards. I think there was decent acting moments at a couple different scenes.
Yeah.
There's definitely decisions that characters make at times that are completely out of the, like, I don't even know why are you doing this? Why are you making this decision? Why are you doing that? Why? It's like, because reasons.
Yeah.
So I didn't enjoy that. Cinematography was very standard, very flat. There wasn't anything to be all that excited about cinematography-wise. Music was like exactly what you would expect, and not like in a good way. It was just like, okay, now we need like strings because it's like a really intense moment, and now we need like pads because it's like a really somber moment. You know what I mean? It's like exactly what you would expect.
Yeah.
The plot didn't really go anywhere. I think tonally it was focused, but even it being focused, the characters weren't interesting.
Right.
There was nothing about any of the characters' stories that you really felt like you wanted to kind of know what's going to drive them forward, what's going to take them on.
Yeah.
And so, I left the film going like, okay, like, what were you trying to tell me? It felt like they were they were trying to either do one of like two messages. They were trying to teach you the dangers and the issues of being too engrossed in social media and Facebook and gadgets and controlling your life and privacy and why it's important that we support those things, or they were trying to tell you the exact opposite, which is that there's not enough of it, or that it's good, but you're just not approaching it the right way.
Weird.
And because of the way they approached the script, it became so muddled. I mean, John Boyega's character was so wasted in this. There's like a moment where...
Like he was drunk?
No, yeah. Actually, when he meets her, they're drinking, so it's funny. The first time he meets her, they kind of have this like normal interaction that gets a little weird, but then he meets her again later, where she preaches him both times. Okay. And he like takes her to show her like
BB-8.
The circle. What was that?
BB-8.
Oh no, that'd be great.
Okay.
It's like, look at this robot I invented. So he's like this, and that's the other thing. The tech people that like invented this stuff and like started the company, they all look like they're like millennials. They all look like they're like in their early 20s. Yeah. You know, John Boyega looks like he's like in his early 20s. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense how he would be this like amazing tech guru. You know what I mean? We talked about Silicon Valley is another show that I'm watching. Yeah. Those are the kind of people I would expect to see at like the highest levels. Right. People that are just obsessed in this world of like tech and finding the next big thing and stuff. So anyway, so like he talks to her and then he shows her where all this like data is being stored, and he like has this moment with her where he's like, this isn't what I created my system to do. I didn't. And it's like he realizes the danger of it. Right. Like he's like saying that this is dangerous, but then by the end he's like on board with her. That's and weird. He's like, I support you in wanting to make the circle bigger and stronger and take over more things. And it's just there's so many, and this is like the last thing I'm going to say because I'm getting more heated as I talk about it. There's so many moments where you know that if somebody said this or a company pushed for this or they actually tried to do something like this, that nobody would ever accept it. Right. Literally, they're literally trying to say that we're going to make it mandatory for everyone in the country to sign up for a social media account on the Circle and then control voting through the social media account. That would never, we would riot if they were trying to control. Like, people would flip out. Are you kidding me? There's no way that Facebook suddenly says you have to, it's mandatory by law that you have to have a Facebook account. Nobody would ever do that. I mean, they try to make it with the whole insurance thing with Obamacare. I'm getting into politics, but I'm not attacking it. I'm just saying, like, one of the main reasons it didn't work is because people refused to sign up. Mm-hmm. They would do the same thing with this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. I'm just getting way on the soapbox here. But, like, again, I'm not attacking, like, politics on Obamacare or anything like that. I'm just saying that, like, this wouldn't work. I'm just trying to come up with a comparison for why this wouldn't work. So
my parents saw this movie, and I was talking with them about it. Well, just texting my mom. Because they're going to see it, you know, and I was interested because Tom Hanks was in it. It was a draw.
I love Tom Hanks for the most part. In a lot of films he makes, he's one of my favorite actors.
Was he good in the movie?
Yeah, but he's like...
Don't talk about the movie. Was he good
He's in like
it?
10 minutes of it.
But was he good in the movie?
He was okay.
Okay.
I mean, he was believable in the role, but it was like...
It was like Steve Jobs.
You needed a solid like 10 to 15 minutes more time with him to even understand really who he was in the script more.
So my parents saw it and they were going to check it out, and they... I would say that and this is probably why I'm more of that fan perspective. I think both of them probably are as well. Yeah. And they gave it thumbs down. They didn't like it. Yeah. So, and I think that's just kind of the general consensus when you look at it. I mean, the critics and even the audience score isn't that high either.
What would have done it for me and a lot more, I think would have maybe not made it as bad. Might not have been a great film, but it might have been a better one, is if they had had a realistic threat. If you had realistically known the stakes and the threat of this, they say it in that synopsis there, a nefarious, you never understand why it's nefarious.
Yeah.
They just say it is. They set up cameras all around the globe, literally like these tiny little eyeball-looking cameras all around the globe, and nobody says anything. Everybody loves it. And there's like a couple moments where it like causes issues for a couple people. Like she puts this body cam thing on and it causes like issues in her life. But they never get to the point where they realize like this is hugely inappropriate and like passing the bounds of acceptable.
It doesn't sound like
privacy.
It's in our world.
No, and that's the thing. It's like if they'd set it up in an alternate universe where people had a different sense of like private
poor man's
property and,
Black Mirror.
Yeah, but that is exactly what I was going to say, and thank you for reminding me that. It felt like an episode of Black Mirror,
but not a good one.
Right. And one that got stretched out way too long. The thing that Black Mirror does well is it's very focused. Bad things are going to happen, and bad things do happen.
Yeah.
And this one, bad things happen, but it's almost like just like by happenstance.
Why? Yeah.
So I'm going to rate this one on a scale of 1 to 100. I'm going to give it a 45.
Hey-o.
There you go.
There you go.
F. Yeah, F for me.
Big F.
Yep. So there you go, Matt. Any questions, thoughts on The Circle?
No.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm not going to be watching it.
I wouldn't anytime soon. It's not even worth it. I'm sure it'll show up on like HBO Go or Netflix. They're going to be trying to get this film in as many different places for people to watch as possible.
It'll probably be on Netflix
to make some money. So you can expect it out there. But all right. Well, so with that all being said, then let us move on to our final film we're going to be discussing, which was another one you got to see, Matt.
Yes.
Would you like to take us in on that?
And I like this one a little bit more than I did Sleight.
Hey.
This one is called Colossal. This is not a wide release this week. It actually came out technically about a month ago. And it's still in its select theaters. It's not in all theaters.
Yeah.
And just to give you kind of a synopsis, it's about this lady played by Anne Hathaway named Gloria. She's an out-of-work party girl forced to leave her life in New York and move back home. When reports surface that a giant creature or giant monster is destroying Seoul, Korea, she gradually comes to the realization that she is somehow connected to this phenomenon.
Okay.
I
do remember seeing the previews, the trailers for this, and it kind of made me chuckle.
Yeah,
it seemed like a kind of funny idea.
Okay, so and I think this is something that's interesting. Okay, first cast. We have Anne Hathaway, Jason Sudeikis, Austin Stoll, Tim Blake Nelson, and Dan Stevens.
Ooh.
So let me say, first of all, I thought everybody, fantastic acting. I thought it was really good. Even Anne Hathaway, which I feel like she can either go one of two ways. Like she's too over the top.
Yeah.
Or she's just like, I don't know, just not there. Okay,
sure.
Sure. And, but she was really good, very nuanced and all that stuff and how she was. And I believed her. You know how I was saying earlier about Sleight, how the marketing was weird. And I thought it was going to be one thing and I was disappointed it wasn't what it was being marketed as.
Yeah.
This one, I thought it was going to be one thing that it was being marketed as, and it turned out to be something else. And, And I thought it was better for it.
Oh, cool. So it was a pleasant surprise with the marketing fail.
So if you watch the trailers, basically Anne Hathaway finds out that she's basically an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And she can't get her life together. She's basically screwing up her relationships.
Yeah.
She moves back home to like try and start over, get a job, all that stuff, meets
After
people from her childhood. And she finds out over the course of being there back home that whenever she walks through this like specific park at a specific time, this giant like monster or I don't know, what do you call them in Pacific Rim? They're called
not
kaiju.
Kaiju. There
so
you
this
go.
giant like kaiju shows up over not North Korea, Seoul. Oh, that would have been better actually. But anyway, so this giant monster shows up and everybody's freaking out and it's all over the internet. And she like misses it and she's like, I didn't see it. And then she comes back and through like a weird series of events, they set it up to where she does this, like she has this nervous tick.
Okay.
And then she's watching the news coverage of it like the next day and it's doing the nervous tick and like doing some of the things that she was doing at like a specific time.
Yeah.
She's like, wait a minute. And then she goes back to the park and she takes like her friends with her, like the people that she, you know, is with from her hometown, and they go there and they're like she's like trying to show them. She's like, guys, watch this. They're all like live streaming the event, and she's like standing in the park, and like at the specific time, this monster shows up in Korea.
Yeah.
And in
North Korea?
No. And they see it and they're like, wow, this thing is crazy. And then she's like, they were looking at the screen. She's like, okay, what is it doing? And then she starts dancing, and they're like, this is weird. It's like dancing.
Yeah.
And then they look at her and they're like, what? No way. And that's all in the trailer.
That's in
right?
the trailer, correct. Yeah.
So
I think the park and then her dancing is in the trailer.
right. So they set it up to be what I thought it was going to be was like a comedy, like offbeat comedy romance where she like meets
a dramedy.
Yeah, she meets Jason Sudeikis, and at very most, like she battles her inner demons of being an alcoholic.
I was like, the big outside demon or the big outside monster is like a symbolic of the inner monster type thing. Yeah.
Right. So I thought it was going to be like that.
Yeah.
And you're right. The monster is some symbolic thing, whatever. She had to get her stuff in order, and maybe the monster would disappear or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not, dude. This is such a weird movie, in a good way.
Does it go like Pacific Rim, kind of?
No.
Okay, like everybody's got their own little monster.
It becomes like almost like a horror thriller at the end.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So, and I think that's part of the problem. I did like it, that turn that didn't happen to like the last half hour, where there's hints of it in 15 minutes leading up to that last half hour. But yeah, and I think a lot of it revolves around Jason Sudeikis' character. I won't say what happened because it's kind of like crazy at the end, and I think that's for the better. I liked it because of the twist, but at the same time, it also kind of hinders the movie a little bit because it felt really disjointed.
Right.
It was like that kind of like comedy, drama, romance.
Yeah.
And then it like changes.
Right.
And it just kind of changes. And Jason Sudeikis, his character, they didn't really explain. It was almost like a whole scene was missing as to why he went from this like kind of lovable guy with his own demons to something way darker.
Huh.
And it hurt the movie as a whole, but it made me enjoy the movie more.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't. It's hard to explain without really.
If it had been more of a natural shift, do you think it would have been okay?
More of a natural shift.
If it had been handled better.
I feel like if they would have had. I feel like if they would have had another 5 minutes worth developing why, because you find out that Jason Sudeikis is kind of. And this isn't really a spoiler. He's battling his own similar demons as far as alcoholism is concerned. Yeah. And so you learn that earlier on. You're like, oh, this is kind of be something interesting, and they're going to kind of do this together. And that's where you think the romance comedy, but then it just goes away. I felt like if they would have had 5 more minutes explaining where he's coming from, that it would have been a better transition into that like just total tonal shift. It changed movies. It was like 2 separate movies kind of. But I did really enjoy it, and I love the way that it ended. It's almost like they don't even address the alcoholism as part of what's happening. It's not really related to the monster stuff at all.
It just turns into like a crazy horror almost monster movie.
It's not really in the horror part's not even the monster stuff. Yeah. It's more thriller than horror, but it becomes like something where you're like, this is really serious. There's no comedy in any of this right now. And
it's listed as an action comedy sci-fi. That's kind of all the like categorizations I've seen for it.
So there's a ton of different genres in this thing. It's definitely not for everyone. It's gonna be I feel like one to be like a cult classic, something that some people are gonna love it or hate it.
Yeah,
I think.
Okay. It's rated. I mean, it's an R rating.
It's rated R,
right? So
just for language primarily.
Right. Cult classic type films have the tendency, I mean, to be R in my mind. A lot of them. So I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
I was gonna rate this thing pretty low until the last like 30 minutes. I was like, oh, this is really interesting now. What? Yeah. I was confused as to why it was happening, but I did like where it was going. I was like, this is okay. Yeah. And I was gonna rate it in the low 70s, but I'm gonna give it an 80.
Okay. Wow,
I did.
nice.
I liked
Bump
it.
Up to a B minus.
Yeah, and I'd be curious to see when it comes out if there's like deleted scenes that maybe that would explain it more.
Yeah.
If there's some director's cut or something like this. Now this got released at TIFF.
Yeah.
just this last year, I believe, and which is the Toronto International Film Festival. For those of you who don't know, and
It's a big one.
And so a lot of things like that get screened there, and then they vie for like being getting distribution and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I did like it. I thought it was one of Anne Hathaway's better ones. I'm surprised.
Seen her in a lot.
Yeah,
so
I thought it was
it's interesting.
Jason Sudeikis. I don't really take that serious, but I thought he did really good.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen her a lot recently.
Yeah.
I've seen her in a lot of other stuff in the past. Yeah.
Batgirl.
Yeah.
No, not Batgirl. Catwoman.
Catwoman. Yeah.
Duh.
I made
Okay.
that joke. I don't know if you heard me.
I didn't.
Oh, I said this was a follow-up right after the events of Batman.
Oh man.
She has a bunch of bad experiences and leaves Batman.
This is why they started building those robots in Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Other than that, I enjoyed it. The first half is very kind of cliche. Everything's very cliche.
Yeah.
There's some funny moments, and they say comedy. I didn't think it was that funny.
Right.
But I liked the last half.
So
better.
does it go into like, because you said it definitely changes in the last 30 minutes. Does it go into like a deeper kind of film, or does it just change tone? Is it really just a tonal
No,
shift?
it's not deeper.
It's just a tonal shift.
Tonal shift. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
But yeah, that's it. I would give it an 80. Yeah.
Awesome. And I guess if people are interested in checking out something like that, would you say there's like a market? Like, is there a target market? You're really seeing kind of that
It's kind of niche, dude.
Niche.
I think it's going to be. Guys, go check it out, and I'd be curious to hear your opinions on this. Honestly, I don't know a lot of people that have seen this.
I don't either.
So I would want to get some other thoughts on it. I did like it, but it's all due to the last half and due to I love the thriller genre, and it just went there for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh.
So there was another actually movie that came out this week that I wanted to check it out and get a chance to. It's How to Be a Latin Lover.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you saw the preview for that. It looked just really funny and stupid to me, like stupidly funny. It's getting pretty good ratings, getting 81%.
Oh.
I ended up seeing The Circle because, that's the big blockbuster release that
You know how to pick a
one
man.
of us
You've been
had to
watching
watch.
that.
Yeah, but we might, at some point, I'm going to have to watch that one too. So I'll try and see if I can track that one down. I don't know if it's playing in a lot of theaters near me, but one of those two will probably end up getting watched at some point soon. So awesome, Matt. Well, thank you for the review.
Totally welcome.
Yeah. So with that all being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here on the podcast. Did you just hit
Indeed,
that?
I just kicked the microphone.
Drop, kick the mic. Hadouken. Yeah. All right. So we're going to go ahead and sign off. Again, some different ways you can get connected to us. You can check out our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/RealReviewMedia.
Yep.
You can check out our Instagram, Twitter accounts, which are both at Real Review Media.
Yep.
You can check out our website, which is realreviewmedia.com.
Yep.
We're always posting really awesome, cool, fun things on all those pages. So definitely get connected. Definitely stay attached to what we have going on there. And then, maybe you do get a chance to check out one of these films specifically. You get to check out Colossal and let Matt know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
Yeah, you can give us an email, shoot us an email at realreviewmedia@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Love to hear from you. Love to hear thoughts on the show, on the movie as well. So cool. And anything else, Matt?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, then, it's been real.
It's been real.